Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, on Friday, the Baton Rouge Police Department released new video footage of the shooting of Alton Sterling. I will post that video in the description box so that you all could watch it for yourself and judge it for yourself. You all know that I did a video where I was talking about the decisions that Alton Sterling made and how they led to his death. But for this video right here, I'm going to talk about the mistakes that the police department made. Mistakes that are apparent when you watch the video. So the police immediately arrive on the scene, and just for background information, as you all know, the police received a call that Alton Sterling was threatening people with a gun or threatening a person with a gun. So that's the reason why they arrived on the scene. When they arrived on the scene, he did not have a gun out at that particular time. He wasn't threatening anyone with a gun. He was just selling CDs and other products outside of this convenience store. So the police run up on him. They tell him to back off. They tell him don't move. They say stop. And then, they pin him to a car and they try to put his hands on the car. And he's asking, what did I do? And then one of the officers points a gun at his head. But while he's asking, what did I do? He's kind of resisting them. He's not fully complying. He eventually puts his hands on the car, but he lifts his hands up and he eventually turns around. But the police officer had a gun to his head before he could even have a chance to turn around. And he said, don't move or I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to shoot you in the head. That's what this officer tells him. And he tells him to put his hands on the car. And then Alton Sterling is like, hold up, you're hurting my arm. And then he's like asking again, what happened? What did I do? And then eventually the police move back from him because he's a big guy and he's resisting them. And they move back from him and they shoot him with a taser. They try to tase him. And they tell him to get on the ground. But he has his hands up. When right before they tase him, he has his hands up, and then he falls to his knees, and they're like, "Get to the ground," and he doesn't, comply immediately, and then they tackle him to the ground, and then a struggle ensues, and then you hear a gunshot go off. And so I just want to provide my thoughts about this. First of all, at least according to that very short clip, it doesn't appear that Alton Sterling is intoxicated at all. It seems like he's just trying to figure out what's going on. That's the impression that I get from the video. So I'm interested in knowing exactly how much of these different substances did he really have in his body, because the police in that report, in the Justice Department's report, it outlines that he had all these different substances in his body, but he's not behaving like you would expect someone to behave if they're so intoxicated with all these different substances. So I don't know if this is, trace amounts of these substances, like over time, like he may have used these substances over time, just like how somebody does a drug test for a job or something like that, and they may have trace amounts of particular substances in them, but they didn't have enough at the particular time to be intoxicated. So that's what I'm wondering about. I'm really wondering about that because, again, he didn't appear intoxicated. The next thing I'll say is this. I mean, the police, I think that they overreacted in this situation. They were immediately escalating the situation. They went from 0 to 100 in a couple of seconds. And it didn't have to turn out this way. They could have handled this in a different kind of way, and maybe we would have had a different kind of result. Maybe this brother, Alton Sterling, would still be alive if the police handled it in a different way. They didn't even hardly give him much time to really comply because they were quick to act. And I understand the circumstances. Here is a man who's accused of threatening people with a gun, but I still believe that these police overreacted and they escalated this situation prematurely. And unfortunately, this brother lost his life. And after this video was released, one of the officers was terminated. The officer apparently who put the gun to Alton Sterling's head was terminated. And the other officer was suspended for 3 days. And, while that's good that the officer was terminated, I don't think that will that's nowhere near sufficient to compensate the family for this tragic loss. Now, I pointed out the problems with the criminal case, bringing a criminal case in my last video. And, I still stand by those comments, but I think that the family should still pursue a civil case. And I wouldn't be surprised if they haven't already filed a lawsuit against the Baton Rouge Police Department. Um, because here you have a situation where these police officers obviously did not follow police practices. Because if they followed police practices, the police department wouldn't have terminated one of them and suspended the other one. So because of their failure to adhere to the standard of care in the police department, hopefully the police department will be found liable for the killing of Alton Sterling and have to compensate the family. So I just had to share this thought. I mean, it's just tragic to see another black man killed, to see this, how the events unfolded. And it's like every time we see one of these incidents, as many people have talked about, it's like the black community as a collective suffers from post-traumatic stress syndrome. This is psychologically damaging to see these images constantly of black men being killed by these police. So tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.